lets us reuse code. So if we wanted to run both these lines of code again, all we have to do is type the function name again with brackets. So function 1 and brackets again. If we save, this will run the code inside the function 2 times. And we can reuse this code as many times as we want by typing the function name with brackets. So that's what a function is. It lets us reuse code. Now let's learn the syntax rules for functions. The word function creates a new function, and then we choose a name for our function. The rules for function names are the same as variable names. We can't use special words like function. We can't start with a number.
Huh? Òwúrọ̀. Goodness ló sùn. Wà á dúró rẹ̀. Tá a máa pè mí. Mo mú goodness wá. Are you okay now? Yeah. It's such a shame that she can't stay calm. I don't know. I don't know. It's extreme. Skills of thought.
Thinking about studying in Germany, but worried about the cost? What if I told you there are cities where you can study at world-class universities without breaking the bank?
What are the best German universities for international students? I looked at all the 400 different universities. What are the best German universities for international students? I looked at all the 400 different universities in Germany for you and picked out the 5 most promising public institutions. And when choosing them, I considered 3 things: how international the city is, how many degree programs are taught in English, and most importantly, how many international students are already at the university. So let me start with a city I'm very familiar with, Munich. And there you have the Ludwig Maximilian University, short LMU. And this one is especially interesting for master's students because it is 30 dedicated English-taught master's programs. Everything from quantum science to economics. About 17% of LMU students are international, and the number is only growing each year. And the reason for that is because the city around LMU is very, very international. I live in Munich myself, so I can speak from first-hand experience. When I walk through the city, I hear so many different languages, and Munich is one of the cities in Germany where you can get by with only English. I know many students here who only speak very basic German like A1 and A2, but they're still able to go through everyday life without many problems. Big international companies have their locations in Munich, and with all the different research institutes and funding, there's a big tech hub forming in the city. So you have plenty of opportunities in different industries, and the extreme case, getting a job with English only, is more realistic here compared to other German cities. Munich is currently one of the most livable cities for students in the entire world. And I would say the only downside of the city is the high cost of living. And this is truly a problem. Especially international students and people who move to Munich for their studies suffer from the prices but also the lack of housing. Yes, it is still possible to get affordable student housing for 400 euros, but as you can imagine, the competition is very high. So I would say Munich is only enjoyable for students who can manage these conditions. So let's continue with one more university in Munich. TUM, the Technical University of Munich, is one of the, if not the most popular university for international students in Germany. It's crazy, I recently got involved with TUM a little bit more, and honestly I feel like English is the predominant language there. I know non-EU international students have to pay tuition fees since the winter semester 2024, but I still included TUM in this list because when it comes to the offering and the infrastructure, it is ideal for international students. The university offers 70 English-taught degree programs, both bachelor's and also master's. And about 38% of TUM students are international students. I recently found out that there's also a TUM branch in Singapore, so the university is really trying to grow its presence on the international stage. The different departments have the name school, so School of Management, School of Life Sciences, and so on. And here you can see that they got inspired by the naming scheme in the US. Of course, I might be a bit biased towards universities in Munich because I live here and I'm also very involved in the international community. But nonetheless, the city keeps its promises. The amount of international people I see on the streets is crazy. Of course, there are also a lot of tourists in Munich, but also a lot of international students. But let's move on to a different city. So I want you to imagine this, a city straight out of a storybook, where cobblestone streets lead to a majestic castle overlooking a river. This is Heidelberg. And there you find one of Europe's oldest universities that I strongly recommend to international students, Heidelberg University. Maybe you've heard of the name before, it's certainly one of the more well-known German universities. 18% of its students are from abroad, and the university is known for its English-taught master's programs in the science and also humanities. There are in total 46 degree programs taught in English. And unlike the hustle of Berlin or Munich, Heidelberg actually has a chill vibe. I would say the city lets you focus and reflect. What are the best German universities for international students? I looked at all the 400 to get affordable student housing for 400 euros, but as you can imagine, the competition international students. I recently found out that there's also a TUM branch in Singapore, so the university is really trying to grow its presence on the international stage. The different departments have the name school, so School of Management, School of Life Sciences, and so on. And here you can see that they got inspired by the naming scheme in the US. Of course, I might be a bit biased towards universities in Munich because I live here and I'm also very involved in the international community. But nonetheless, the city keeps its promises. The amount of international people I see on the streets streets is crazy. Of course, there are also a lot of tourists in Munich, but also a lot of international students. But let's move on to a different city. So I want you to imagine this, a city straight out of a storybook, where cobblestone streets lead to a majestic castle overlooking a river. This is Heidelberg. And there you find one of Europe's oldest universities that I strongly recommend to international students, Heidelberg University. Maybe you've heard of the name before, it's certainly one of the more well-known German universities. 18% of its students are from abroad, and the university is known for its English-taught master's programs in the science and also humanities. There are in total 46 degree programs taught in English. And unlike the hustle of Berlin or Munich, Heidelberg actually has a chill vibe. I would say the city lets you focus and reflect more. I still remember my first visit. It was very short, but going through the city and visiting the castle and the river was a nice experience. And when you stand there surrounded by nature and history, it's hard not to feel inspired. But in this calm city, there's also an international community. Like in every other student city, there are cafes, student hangouts, and enough cultural events to not be bored. And compared to larger cities like Munich or Frankfurt, Heidelberg has way more affordable student housing options. This is the advantage of studying in a smaller city. So I would say if you're looking for a different, more relaxed vibe, Heidelberg is the way to go. High quality education, well-known university name, plus the international aspect. And I can absolutely understand why so many students choose Heidelberg as their city. But since Heidelberg is a smaller city, you're probably going to need German. And with German, there are a lot more opportunities. I recently made my favorite video of all time in which I talk about the best way to learn German. I put a link to it in the video description. But let's go away from peaceful Heidelberg to a bigger city. Actually, the capital of Germany, Berlin. And this one is a hub where history, culture, and academic innovation, they all come together. And I would say this one is the melting pot of Germany. You might have heard of a lot of international students going to Berlin. And here on YouTube, you can also find a lot of videos about life in Berlin as an international student. So the city is very popular. In Berlin, there are multiple universities, and one of them is the Humboldt University of Berlin. You will find an institution that looks quite traditional, but it's actually very modern. 17% are international students, and to make it really attractive for people from abroad, the university also has a lot of English-taught programs. And not far from Humboldt, there's the Free University of Berlin, Freie Universität. It's in a slightly more suburban setting. Humboldt directly sits in the city center, but Freie Universität has a more peaceful green campus, 21% international students, and 50 English-taught degree programs, bachelor's and master's. I would say this selection is more than enough for students from abroad. Now, Berlin is probably the most diverse city in all of Germany. I recently saw an article that German is also not the predominant language in the city anymore. In many cafes, the staff doesn't speak German, and you can order completely in English. Now, keep in mind, this is not the case in all German cities. I would say Berlin is more or less the exception. I've been to Berlin a couple of times. It's a very diverse city, and it doesn't matter who you are or what you're interested in, you will find the right people. And for a big city, the cost of living is not too high. Of course, compared to other locations, compared to other smaller cities, it's more expensive, but still in a range where students can manage it, unlike Munich or Frankfurt. So these 5 universities should feature almost all types of degree programs. Of course, these are well-known institutions, and depending on the program, getting in as an international student can be very competitive. After I make this video, I'm sure a lot of students are interested in these universities. And since they have been very popular over the last few years, the competitive aspect probably won't change. So if your dream university is not on this list, don't worry. It doesn't mean that you have to go to these universities to succeed in Germany. There are in total 400 different universities, and studying in a smaller city also has its big benefits. I recently interviewed my friend Marcus about his student life in Germany, and he said that the best part of his student life was on a campus in a very small city. In this video, I only talked about classic universities, but universities of applied sciences are also a viable option. But they are often not as international as the big classic universities. But the trend is shifting, and right now a lot of international students also go to these institutions. So TH Rosenheim and TH Deckendorf are 2 very international examples. So in general, I would say the top 5 most international cities in Germany are Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt.
Okay.